not necessarily tribal or regional.
But I have said that.
Welcome back. It's still Daybreak Extra on Trust TV. And of course, guess who came in?
Hi, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us on Daybreak Extra. You know, on Saturdays, you know, it's actually kind of difficult for you to actually maneuver and get to where you're going to, because where I actually followed was blocked. And there was no notice of any kind whatsoever to actually say that this place is blocked. So you had a lot of people maneuvering, trying to take, you know, and makes traffic other routes.
An absolute nightmare.
Yeah, you actually have people, you know, moving on one lane, on a particular lane, you know, creating a different lane, trying to maneuver to get to the. It was a nightmare. It was crazy.
And you know, officially we're in wedding season right now, so
exactly. And aside that, you end up blocking most of these roads when you know that there's so many people who are going to step out on the Saturday.
Exactly.
You know, even though I understand the fact that, you know, you need to get these roads or the bridges, you know, fixed before the end of of the term and all that. But then, you know, make it easier for us.
Definitely. I mean, like, alternate routes have to be created.
Alternate routes,
I mean, like,
exactly.
we make proper planning so that at least traffic, we can have free flow of traffic. Because there's no point of you coming out and being stuck in traffic for hours, not being able to go, get where you need to get. I mean, like, after you've struggled to get the fuel. That is
and then I have to battle with traffic.
Exactly.
You know, and I actually kept on thinking, whatever happened to, you know, doing or working at night? It makes it a lot easier, doesn't it?
It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, because you have less people, less motorists on the road, and then you get to do it for hours.
Exactly.
You're not blocking the whole road, and it's and major routes for that matter.
That is quite something that needs to be looked at. Well, the good thing is you're here.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Yeah. All right. So I'm Dasha and Husseina Usman. Thank you so much for joining us. And now we'll move on. We'll still continue with you know, reeling out stories from the national dailies. Well done, Ibrahim, by the way.
Yeah. Well, I held down the fort.
All right. So let's take a look at the Guardian newspaper. And The Guardian on Saturday here, the lead story talks about attacks on INEC facilities endanger 2023 polls. Yakubu cries out. You can find details of that story on page 2. And we have at the top of the page there, Ohaneze Ndibo applauds Buhari over second Niger bridge. On page 4, you have police exhume bodies of 5 killed over alleged witchcraft, arrest suspects in Cross River State. We also have on Metro Notes, NAFDAC boss cautions against use of bleaching cosmetic products. On Tributes, we have President Buhari at 80, 12 things Nigerians need to know. This would actually make for a good read. Moving on, just below the lead story there, we have Bafarawa Lamido's blanket metaphor for Atiku. Details on page 22. On Saturday's special, we have workplace accidents. Whether you like it or not, these things happen. And it says how ignorance denies employees of compensation. On Celebrity, we have Funke Akindele saying, Battle on the Booker Street is a farewell project. I'm assuming farewell from movies into politics.
Yeah, well, I think that's the transition now.
All right, so on Guardian Woman, we have most female-led enterprises are doing exceptionally well, says Farida Kabir. And these are some of the stories on Guardian newspaper. And then we'll move on to the next paper, which is Tribune newspaper. Saturday Tribune here, the lead story talks about CBN's cashless policy. North kicks against 20,000 naira withdrawal limit. ACF says policy will destroy the poor. All right, we also have more stories. A pictorial there below that lead story is on Abiodun commissioning 4.5 kilometers Molushi College Road, promises solar lights for rural areas as well. We have Atiku, Tinubu, Sanwo-Olu felicitate Buhari at 80. We also have why next president must come from Southeast. That's from, according to Bonigi. At the top of the page there we have, if I ever steal again, shoot me, use my hand as sacrifice to God of iron, says motorcycle thief.
Yeah, that's a very strong declaration there.
We also have defense chief calls for probe of alleged abortion of 10,000 Boko Haram pregnancies. Army promotes 52 generals and 70 others. That's on page 19. And on the footnote there, we have Aregbe Shola, responsible for 407 billion naira Osun debt. Oyetola's ex-finance commissioner tells Adeleke. And we have monthly deductions on facilities minimal, says Aregbe Shola. And with that, we'll take the final paper, which is this day newspaper. Buhari clocks 80. Jonathan, Atiku, Tinubu, Lawang extol his virtues. That's on the lead story there. Predecessor says president offering best efforts in pursuit of aspirations for country. And then there's a pictorial of African leaders in the U.S. At the U.S. African Summit in Washington, D.C. And they're flanked by President Joe Biden of the United States of America. We also have federal government declares holidays for Christmas and New Year celebrations. Details on page 14. And at the top of the page there's clean energy. 30 million Nigerians to benefit from deal with the U.S. Construction of phase 1 starts first quarter 2023. And we have CBN. Allegation of 89 trillion naira stamp duty fraud is ridiculous and baseless. You can find details of that story on page 6. And finally, we have IG says failed politicians, IPOB, Yoruba Nation agitators working to derail 2023 elections. And these are some of the stories on this day newspaper. And with that, we'll wrap up reeling out, the papers from the national dailies today. Now let's move on to taking a few of these particular stories. We'll start with Daily Trust Saturday, of course. And let's take a look at numbers first of all. The number of senior officers Police Service Commission promoted to next ranks is 745.
Well, when you look at that,
is that a huge number?
Yeah, when you look at that with the ratio of the police officers that we do have, I mean, like
it's quite minimal,
yeah,
quite small.
Really.
I think.
Yeah, well, I think it's all a question about capacity. I mean, like if you are really
good at what you're doing,
exactly, then you should be promoted. I mean, like we read a story about the army doing promotions as well. So I think it's all about capacity. If you have what it takes to deliver, then you get promoted.
All right. So the number of laptops stolen by a site manager to Kebna ICT Jam Centers in Zuru, Kebbi State is 83.
Well, he must have done that over a period of time now, isn't it? I mean, like
how did that happen? How didn't they notice?
I mean, like I can imagine somebody coming with a van and moving 83 laptops. I think he maybe
did he open up shop with them?
Maybe.
Possibly.
An online shop selling used laptops.
All right. So the number of mortgage banks PENCOM approved to access residential mortgage by retirement savings account holders is 34. And we also have the amount of active internet users Nigerian Communications Commission listed with 210 million active mobile users is 152.2 million.
Yeah, that's
the number of active internet users.
That's reasonable. I mean, like there are lots of people that use the internet in Nigeria, and considering our population, that's that number.
So, but do you think we'll ever get to the whole 200 million getting to use the internet?
I don't. I think that's going to be very difficult.
Aside children and the elderly.
Yeah, that's going to be very difficult because you have a situation whereby we still don't have internet penetration in some places. There are places where you go and there is no internet coverage. I mean, so even if these people want to use the internet, they can't because they don't have the facilities to do that. But so once these things are provided, then definitely we'll be able to do that. But when you go to some very rural areas, the internet is actually not their problem.
It's not. It's actually not. It's how to feed.
Exactly.
By the time they go to the farm from morning till night, when will they even have time to use the internet?
When you have time to actually use the internet, these people wake up very early. They go to the farm, and they come back in the evening. And once you come back,
you're tired.
Exactly. You just rest, wake up, and you start up with the next day again. So there's even no time for that.
And then by the time they harvest their crops, all they want to do is sell.
Exactly. At the same time.
All right, so now the cover story here talks about a whooping 6,884 cases gathering dust in Supreme Court.
And the Supreme Court is the apex court of the land.
Apex court.
Yeah, you know it's the last bus stop for everybody now. So everybody that gets thrown out from the appeal courts and everything like that, he goes to the Supreme Court and makes his case. And I think an ex-attorney general is making a case for the devolution of the apex court itself. I don't think that is the issue. I think there should be a rigorous screening process of cases that actually do make it to the Supreme Court. I don't think most of these, all of these cases are the ones that really have that much merit that can be looked at by the Supreme Court. I think that is why you have a situation whereby they're gathering dust there. So maybe there should be a process whereby these cases are filtered.
Because there are actually a lot of cases.
Exactly.
8,000.
These cases are filtered so that we know the ones that have merit enough to go through the Supreme Court and those who are going to be sent back.
All right, so there's a story I saw. It says witchcraft probe. Police exhumes 5 corpses in Cross River State, and arrest suspects as well. And these corpses, these people were actually killed. After being accused of witchcraft.
Yeah, well, I
this
think
time and age.
Exactly, in this day and age. I mean, this is 2022. You don't expect to see stories like that flying around. But unfortunately, this is the situation we find ourselves in. Things like this still do happen. People getting accused of witchcraft, and then jungle justice being meted out on these people. And the bottom line is that it is unlawful for you to do that. Whether the person is a witch or wizard or anything that you decide to call it, it's not your job.
It is not your job
to mete out jungle justice on that person. So it's broken the law, and since arrests have been made, I believe prosecution will follow as well.
But this happened in a rural area. Is it that these people, they say. Sometimes they say ignorance is bliss, but in this case, ignorance is not at all.
Well, it is, and it's not. Well, it's not really ignorance if you look at it, because it's part of their belief system. It's something that they believe in. Exactly, and that is something that they believe in, and something they believe they know. So in that case, in a situation like this, he will tell you are ignorant because you don't know what he knows about the witchcraft. You understand? You understand? So that's the thing. So in a situation like this, I think the word ignorance is actually relative, because he believes he knows, he's an expert in witchcraft, and he can be able to identify these people and take action on them. And he might even tell you that he has been divinely hired to do that job.
Very
you
true.
Understand?
Very true. All right, so let's take one more story on Daily Trust that talks about a lady here, Binta Mukhtar Ahmed, who says she left ABU because of the ASU strike, and she went to Al Hikma University, and she came out best graduating student. You have a lot of students who actually did that, moved, swapped schools.
That's for those who have the opportunity to actually do that. I mean, most of these private universities are quite expensive. It's not everybody that can actually afford that. So for those ones who are fortunate to actually leave public universities to go private universities and finish school, that is a good one for them. But unfortunately, you have those that have absolutely no choice but to sit down and wait for the strikes to end whenever they do, and so that they can go back to school. Exactly.
Some who have even given up on school and education.
Of course you will give up on school. I mean, you stay at home for 11 months with nothing to do, and it's terrible. It's really terrible, and it's sad, because you have a plan. You know that you're going to school, you're going to study a 4-year course. You have a plan, okay, fine, within the next 4 or 5 years, I'm done with this, and I'm going to do something different. At the end of the day, you're spending 7-8 years, and you're in year 3.
Or year 1. You're still in year 1.
You understand? When you spend 3 or 4 years in year 1, then it demoralizes you.
It does.
And school is expensive, no matter how we try to twist it. It is expensive. Not just paying tuition and all that. You have to talk about accommodation, you have to talk about feeding, transport, all these things. And when you stretch that for somebody for that longer period, I mean, there are really people who cannot be able to make it. So for those who can be able to go to private universities, pay the huge sums of money to do that, that's well done to them. But unfortunately, we have to keep it at the back of our minds that there are people that have absolutely no choice but to stick it out with the public universities that we have. Even at that, they're struggling to do that.
All right, let's take a look at, the lead story on the Nation newspaper that talks about confusion and scarcity trailing new Naira notes rollout. One of the confusion that I actually know of is I actually saw a video of a man who went to buy from a petty trader, and he went to buy, something from a petty trader, and he gave her the 1,000 Naira note for change, and she said she doesn't recognize the note, that she cannot accept it. So he had to swap with the trailer driver, and she gave her the old one. And she was like, this is the one I know.
Exactly.
This is one confusion. And then I heard that if you go to the bank, they don't give you more than 5,000 Naira.
In the new notes?
Yes, in the new notes. They don't give you more than 5,000 Naira. And then at the ATMs, only 200 Naira would be loaded.
And actually, even on the day of the rollout, when it was supposed to be rolled out, we went out, we tried to find out whether we couldn't see any of them. Even in the ATMs, they were not there. The new notes were not there, actually. And
and they said banks are still issuing old notes.
Exactly.
So how do you expect to get these old notes out
of circulation if you're still issuing out these old notes? Seriously, sometimes we have a serious problem of doing things the right way in this country. Number one, we just talked about the issue right now. There's not much sensitization. A lot of people don't even know about how these Naira notes look like. Just like we talked about, maybe they're on social media and the rest of it.
Fake.
Exactly.
Because it's the same features but different colors.
So he doesn't know it. The same incident. Somebody was complaining that he saw a situation whereby blows were almost thrown because when he bought something from an old man. He gave the old man 500 Naira, the new 500 Naira. He said he doesn't know this. He wants the money that he knows, and you can't blame him because actually he doesn't know it. So that's the truth of the matter. We went into this policy. We brought this thing. We're not saying that it's not you shouldn't do it, but there's a right way to do it. Give people time, sensitize people. Throw these things out there. Show people these things. Let us see them, and know. And we have a deadline. For using these old notes.
January, right?
Exactly. Had it been these notes were going to be phased out
in next 6 months,
with
or
time,
even...
you understand. There was a time that the 100 Naira was redesigned. There was no deadline for that. Both currencies, both notes were actually being used simultaneously until that one automatically, organically phased out. So had it been we were doing that, it would have been a different case. But we have a deadline now. And if right now people don't even know how the new notes look like, then there's definitely a serious problem.
All right, with that, we will wrap up the newspaper review right now on Daybreak Extra. We'll take a break, and when we come back, we will be introducing our first guest. Stick around.
When the situation where you find that